Hey guys, so today I wanted to make a video on some crazy stories pertaining to how I've acquired stuff for my collection. Just random situations or just information kind of maybe attached to the items that I have here on the table. Or again, just kind of weird circumstances on how, these items made their way into my collection. Just kind of one of those weird, I guess, funky ideas I had just to kind of change things up. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring you in and let's get started. All right, so got a few things here on the table. Not a table full of stuff like normal, but again, all of these things you see here kind of have interesting story attached to them, I guess. And so I'll go ahead and get started. Right here, I've got this helmet. It's a World War II McCord, and it's you see it's painted yellow, and it's actually got the nickname Bluey on the back. I made a video early last year about this helmet, and it's got a lot of really cool history. I'll put it in the end screen or even in the description of this video if you want to really check into the details pertaining to the soldier who wore this helmet. But so I got this helmet off Facebook Marketplace, and the guy I got it from, he does house cleanouts and everything. And I was talking to him about the different things he finds in houses and stuff, and he told me something kind of weird, really kind of creepy. Doesn't really have to do with this helmet, but by me purchasing this helmet, meeting this guy is kind of how I heard this story. So he told me one time he was cleaning out a house, and he walked into the house, and he kind of got like a weird, eerie feeling, and he said he was kind of walking through the house and everything, and he walked, into the kitchen, and as he walked out of the kitchen, there was a bedroom just a little bit beyond that, and he said in between the kitchen and the bedroom was like a little small like nook or cubby little area, and he said in that area there was a chair, and the chair had straps like on the arms and the legs of the chair, and he said both sides of the wall were had claw marks all over them. So that's it freaked him out and everything. He got a weird vibe, and he said he couldn't wait to get out of the house because it was just weird. It's like one of those things you see in a horror movie or something. So I don't know how long ago this was when he did this. Was going to do this clean out this house, but again, he said there was a chair with straps like restraints and claw marks on the walls. So can only imagine what might have happened in that house. But that was kind of those weird things, that that was been told to me or I've heard over the years. Going to meet people to buy stuff or weird situations, connected to items that I purchased. But I'm thankful this helmet didn't come from that house because I don't know if I'd be able to keep it in my collection. But moving on here, I've got these three World War II 50 caliber rounds. They're actually live. You see they're dated 42 and 43 right there. Got two blue tips and one red. So that's pretty cool. They are live, and you think they're over 80 years old. So that's pretty cool. So the way I got these in my collection is years ago I used to get on Craigslist and I'd put listings about looking for old military stuff. And one day this guy messaged me and said that he had some bullets, and ended up exchanging phone numbers, and I talked to the guy, and we agreed to meet up. So where we agreed to meet up is not far from where I live, but honestly it's not a good part of town at all. It's definitely not a part of the town that really anybody should be in. There's a lot of crime and different things, but I agreed to meet this guy, and something told me, I need to have some kind of protection. I wasn't scared, but you want to be prepared. But I didn't have a gun, but I did have a pocket knife with a pretty good sized blade on it. And so I drove and met up with the guy for these bullets here, these rounds, and we met in a parking lot. And I parked, and I got there first, and then a minute or so later, this vehicle showed up, and then I see this guy with a huge jacket on walking towards me on my passenger side. And, I rolled the window down, which I had a hoodie on, and I had my hand inside the pocket of my hoodie with that pocket knife opened up, with the blade opened up. And the guy came to my passenger window, and he put his arms on the window, and he kind of leaned in a little bit. And, you know, we confirmed that I'm the guy he was looking for. He's the guy I was looking for. And then he reached in his pocket. You know, I'm sitting there holding this pocket knife. I'm dead serious. I'm not making this up. I'm holding this pocket knife in case he pulls out something or whatever. I got to shank him or something if something goes down. But he pulls out, you know, these out of his big, huge jacket. And he hands them to me, and I give him the $10 that we had agreed on. And then he kind of backed out of my window and went and got in his car and left. And I can only imagine what would have looked like, you know, if the business owners or other people passing by, they probably thought some drug deal went down. But again, it was a guy leaned in my car window, handing me these World War II 50 caliber bullets, and me handing him $10. It definitely probably looked like a drug deal, but it's just funny though because I probably shouldn't have went and met up in that area of town because I'm telling you, there's so much crime. It's a really, really bad area to be. But I guess I'm so dedicated to the hobby. I don't know. Maybe I didn't make a good decision. I went to work the next day and was telling this older man I work with, and he's like, you know, you probably could have died, you know, getting those bullets, and I probably could have. So, not the best wisdom used there, but I've learned a lot since the day, you know, that day of getting these, but just kind of a weird story there. This right here is a Spanish American War pack. And I got this at a military show probably about maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. And what's kind of weird about this is I purchased it and I brought it home and everything. You know, whenever I'm interested in something, I don't want to start pulling things out of it and digging through pockets and just all kind of stuff in case something's cool's found and then the price goes up that I have to pay. So I got this home and I'm looking inside of it. I'm digging in there and stuff. And this thing is like full of like men's underwear, like boxers. There's probably about, I don't know, 5 or 6 pair of underwear in this thing. And then there's a bunch of stink bugs. So I'm like, what in the world? Why is this thing full of underwear? And why is there stink bugs in there? Do the underwear stink? Do they stink worse than stink bugs? It was just really weird. I wasn't expecting to find a bunch of men's underwear in this thing. You know, I mean, and it wasn't even like old Spanish American War underwear. It was like Hanes boxers. I mean, maybe somebody used it for camping, but I don't know why they would only pack underwear. It's kind of weird, but definitely one of the funnier things I've come across. Um, Moving on here, I've got this 3 ring binder here. This is, you know, all these items have actually been in other videos. I'm just kind of putting things together for other video ideas. But so this right here was very interesting. You know, all my family, friends, everybody knows, you know, Jonathan loves World War II stuff, World War I, World War II, old military stuff. So I got this right here probably, man, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. My mother-in-law came to visit, and she actually had like a Walmart sack, you know, like a plastic sack, and she handed it to me. She said some military stuff she found in her mother's antique shop. And long story short, my wife's great grandmother used to dumpster dive, and she actually used to live in Chicago and would dumpster dive and find all kind of stuff. And so my mother-in-law handed me a bag, and I sorted the stuff out. And it turned out this is basically a really amazing World War I grouping that belonged to a guy. He was actually wounded in action. He was wounded going over the top. He was machine gunned in the shoulder. This is actually him right here. His name was Nicholas Cumming. And you see 61st Regiment 79th Company was injured by a shot in the right shoulder from a machine gun while he was going over the top at Chateau Thierry, I guess I'm pronouncing that right, France, June 11th of 1918. So, you know, that's pretty interesting, and there's so many things here. His pay book, all kind of receipts, records, newspaper articles, postcards. There's some German money. Just so many things, you know, application for Purple Heart right there. Again, just so many, you know, paper items and different things, prayer books. It's even got his spectacles, his glasses in here, some photos of him. But, you know, what's kind of crazy or just interesting or I guess amazing is this stuff was in the trash. And, you know, a lot of us, you know, talk about that and just like, man, we can only imagine what all's been, you know, thrown away over the years. But again, all of this right here, my wife's great-grandmother saved from the garbage, from the dumpster. And, you know, and I've always wondered, like, man, what did she miss? Did she miss, you know, finding his medals in the garbage or uniform, you know, or what was missed? I mean, I'm thankful she pulled all this stuff out of here because there's a lot of really cool stuff here. Again, photos and all kind of stuff. There's a tank postcard, and it's just amazing. And it's just, again, it's one of those crazy or weird things that this was in the garbage, and I know a lot of us have been like, man, we could only imagine what's been thrown away, right? But thankful for my wife's great grandmother, and thankful for my mother-in-law for giving this to me. Again, probably about, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. Couple other things here for you. I got a couple rifles here, and the first one right here, it's a Krag, U.S. Krag rifle, overall in really good condition. The serial number dates it to 1898, and as of right now, this is the oldest firearm that I have in my collection. And something interesting about this, so in 2012, I went to a military auction about an hour or so from my house. And at the time, honestly, I didn't have a lot of money. I wasn't as heavily into collecting as I am now. Didn't have, money to collect like I do now. And so I went to this auction with, I don't even know what I had. I think I had maybe $150 or something. Most guys go to military auction, probably take $5,000 to $10,000. I didn't have a lot with me. So I pull up, and I was walking into the building, and this man stopped me, and he was sitting right beside an old pickup truck, and he asked me if I collect old firearms, like guns and stuff. And I said, yes, sir, I do. And he said, well, would you like to see what I have? And I was like, well, yes, sir. And, my mind's already thinking of what could possibly be in the auction, right? What I could go in there potentially bid on and win. And so the man, he actually shows me, he had about 4 or 5 rifles, which most of them weren't really military, but there was a British Enfield rifle. And I later found out, it was actually a Savage, which, they're desirable. And again, this was in 2012, so it was 12 years ago. And so, I'm looking at stuff, and honestly, the rifle had been refinished, it had been shellacked. There was a bunch of repairs in the stock and different things, so it wasn't like a collector piece, really. And the man said, give me $80 for it. And I'm thinking, man, that's a pretty good deal, right? But man, I only have so much money with me, and there's no telling what might be in the auction. But I went ahead and did it. I purchased the Enfield for $80. And fast forward about maybe 5, 6 years after that, I would say it was maybe around 2017, 2018, somewhere in that range, maybe 16. There's a man that had this Krag rifle for sale. And at that time, I had, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 Enfields already. So I'm like, man, I got a bunch of Enfields, right? And so I wanted a Krag, and I knew they were desirable. The prices were going up. And so I reached out to the man, and he wanted $530. $530 he wanted for this Krag rifle. And I'm like, man, I don't have that kind of money. But I said, well, what are you looking for? Anything you're looking for? And he said, I really would like a really nice British Enfield. And I was like, hey, I've got one, that I can bring and show you. And, whatever, we can go from there. So we met out in public in a parking lot. And I looked over this rifle. He looked over the Enfield. And he did notice that it had been refinished and had repairs and stuff like that. But he wanted one so bad that he said, how about we trade rifle for rifle? And I couldn't believe it, honestly. And I'm like, you want to trade rifle for rifle? Just so I was hearing him right, I repeated what he said. And he said, yeah, rifle for rifle. And I'm like, okay, I kind of downplayed it. Like, okay, I'll do that. So we exchanged rifles, shook hands. I don't think I ever saw him again. But what's amazing, though, is, again, he wanted $530 for this amazing Krag rifle, right? $530. And I ended up trading him a British Enfield that's, again, not a collector's piece that I'd only paid $80 for, that I randomly, at that auction in 2012, probably about 4 or 5 years before, had almost passed up because, again, I had money in my pocket for that auction. And I ended up making the right decision because, again, years later, I traded that $80 Enfield for a very, very nice, really good condition U.S. Krag rifle. A lot of you guys know these are insane. These are, I see people wanting like $1,000 for them now. Like, everything's gotten so expensive. But again, I got mine basically for $80. So that's pretty cool. One more thing here for you, another rifle. So it was around about the same time, around 2012, when, again, on Craigslist, I would say, hey, I'm looking for old military stuff. And this guy answered my Craigslist post and said that he had a #1 Mark III British Enfield. And at that time, I didn't have one, and so I'm like, man, I'd really want to. Oh, I've really been wanting a number one Mark III infield. So I actually drive about an hour round trip, maybe a little more, maybe an hour and 15, 20-minute round trip, meet the guy. And I look it over and everything, and he kind of tells me about it. Come to find out, he sold it for a friend, and he wanted $300, and honestly, I had $260. I even showed him my wallet. I said, honestly, man, because we hadn't really finalized a price, and so we met up, and again, I was like, man, I got $260. That's the honest truth. That's all I have with me, cash. And so he called his friend, and his friend agreed to that. And so, we shook hands. I brought the rifle home. Look at this, the number one Mark III, which I honestly thought it was. And I made a video on it. One of my very first videos I ever made on YouTube, I made a video of this. And I ended up making another video because I was corrected in the comments. A man comments said, that's not a number one Mark III. That is actually a Mark V trials rifle. And I had never heard of a Mark V trials rifle. I'm like, what in the world is that? And I got looking at it. Long story short, this is one of about 20,000 of these modeled rifles that were made. This rifle's been in probably 4 or 5 other videos. I made one just on specifically on it. So this again is a very collectible, rare, desirable rifle. It's called a Mark V. See, it's got a Roman numeral 5 right there. Made in 1922. These were only made for 3 years, from 1922 to 1924. And again, only 20,000 were made. And so this one is a very desirable rifle. Again, I only paid $260 for it. And, and it's probably worth over 1,000, maybe 12, 1,500, maybe more than that, because these are very highly sought after. This one's never been replaced. Everything matches. All the numbers match. Even the serial number is like ingrained or made into the wood right here. It all matches. Nothing's ever been replaced. The bore's great. But what's amazing, though, is again, I didn't take advantage of the guy. I honestly did not know that this was a rare rifle. I had no way of knowing. I didn't know. I really thought I was getting a number one Mark III. He thought he was selling me a number one Mark III. And so, unfortunately, he didn't realize what he was selling me, and I didn't realize what I was buying at the time. And so it's just one of those situations. I mean, again, 2012, I paid $260. At this time, this rifle might have been worth, I don't know, $400 or $500 or something. But now, again, it's probably a $1,200, $1,500 rifle to the right person. So it's just kind of those weird situations that kind of worked out in my favor. I would never intentionally take advantage of somebody, but it's just one of those things, I guess. But anyways, guys, I hope you like this video. Kind of weird, funky video to put together. I'm sorry it's so long-winded, but I just kind of wanted to share some of the weird situations, crazy stories, or just things involving items I've added to my collection. But anyways, guys, thank you for all your support. I appreciate everything, and I'll be getting back to you soon.